What if the person occupying your thoughts every day is not absent because they do not care? What if the distance between two people is not created by a lack of love, but by something far more mysterious? Today, you will discover why some of the strongest connections remain unfinished, why certain people seem impossible to forget, and why the very force drawing two souls together may also be keeping them apart. Think carefully. Have you ever tried to move on, only to find the same face appearing in your mind at unexpected moments? A song plays, a familiar place appears, a random thought enters consciousness, and suddenly that person returns as if they never left. Most people interpret this as attachment. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to subscribe and share your thoughts below. Have you ever felt connected to someone despite years of distance? Write "awakening" in the comments if you've experienced this phenomenon. Now let's continue. There is another reason distance persists. What if the person who occupies your thoughts every day is not simply someone you desire, but someone who has activated a hidden part of your psyche? Carl Jung believed that certain individuals enter our lives and touch something much deeper than ordinary attraction. They awaken unconscious patterns, unresolved emotions, and forgotten aspects of ourselves. This is why some people remain in our minds long after physical contact has faded. The mind does not repeatedly return to what is meaningless. Instead, it revisits experiences that carry psychological significance. When a person becomes impossible to forget, many assume it is because of romantic longing alone. Jung would suggest another explanation. The individual may represent qualities that are missing, undeveloped, or suppressed within the self. Perhaps they embody confidence, freedom, creativity, strength, or emotional depth. The unconscious recognizes these qualities and becomes fascinated by them. As a result, the person becomes a symbolic figure rather than merely a human being. The intense focus is not only about who they are, but also about what they reveal within you. This process is closely connected to projection. Jung observed that people often project unconscious desires, hopes, and ideals onto others. Instead of seeing someone exactly as they are, the mind fills them with meaning drawn from its own hidden depths. The connection feels powerful because it involves more than external reality. It involves the inner world seeking expression. Every memory, every imagined conversation, and every emotional reaction becomes part of a deeper psychological dialogue. The reason these thoughts persist is that the unconscious does not communicate through logical arguments. It communicates through symbols, emotions, dreams, and recurring images. The person becomes one of those symbols. Their presence in your thoughts may indicate unfinished psychological work. There may be lessons still waiting to be understood, fears waiting to be confronted, or aspects of your identity waiting to emerge. The mind keeps returning to the connection because something within it remains unresolved. This does not necessarily mean the relationship is destined to happen or that every thought carries a hidden message. Rather, it suggests that the emotional intensity points toward personal growth. The individual acts like a mirror reflecting unseen parts of the self. The more attention given to understanding what they represent, the more insight becomes available. What appears to be an obsession with another person may actually be an invitation to explore the deeper layers of your own nature, where hidden desires, unrealized potential, and unconscious truths quietly influence thoughts, emotions, perceptions, decisions, relationships, ambitions, fears, dreams, motivations, and patterns of behavior every single day. One of the most misunderstood reasons people remain emotionally distant despite strong feelings is fear of transformation. Most individuals believe that love is simply about finding comfort, companionship, or happiness. Carl Jung saw something much deeper. He believed that genuine connection has the power to transform a person's identity. When someone enters your life and touches the deepest parts of your psyche, they do not merely offer affection, they challenge the version of yourself that has existed for years. Human beings naturally create psychological structures to feel safe. These structures include beliefs about who they are, how relationships work, and what they can expect from life. Over time, these patterns become familiar and comfortable, even when they cause suffering. Then, a significant person appears. Suddenly, old assumptions no longer fit. New emotions emerge, hidden desires awaken, vulnerabilities that were carefully protected begin to surface. The experience can feel exciting, but it can also feel threatening. The unconscious mind often interprets major change as danger. It does not distinguish between physical survival and psychological stability. If a relationship has the potential to alter how a person sees themselves, the unconscious may respond with resistance. This resistance can appear in many forms. A person may become distant, avoid communication, create unnecessary conflicts, or convince themselves that the connection is not important. On the surface, these behaviors seem confusing. Beneath them, however, lies a fear of entering unfamiliar psychological territory. Jung believed that meaningful relationships often force people to confront their shadows. The shadow contains qualities, emotions, and experiences that have been rejected or ignored. A deep connection brings these hidden aspects into awareness. Insecurity, fear of abandonment, jealousy, self-doubt, and past emotional wounds suddenly become impossible to ignore. Instead of dealing with these uncomfortable feelings, many people retreat. They create distance, not because they lack affection, but because the relationship is exposing parts of themselves they are not ready to face. This explains why two people can care deeply for one another and still remain apart. Emotional closeness requires psychological openness. It requires a willingness to be seen without masks and defenses. Many people desire intimacy while simultaneously fearing the vulnerability it demands. They long for connection, yet resist the transformation that accompanies it. The result is an inner conflict. One part of the psyche moves toward love, while another part moves away from it. The individual may think constantly about the connection, feel emotionally attached, and still remain distant. What appears to be confusion is often a battle between growth and safety. The connection becomes significant because it represents a doorway into a new version of oneself. And stepping through that doorway requires courage, self-awareness, emotional honesty, acceptance of uncertainty, confrontation with hidden fears, release of outdated identities, and willingness to embrace profound personal change. Carl Jung believed that one of the most powerful forces influencing human relationships is projection. This psychological process occurs when people unconsciously place their own hidden desires, qualities, fears, and aspirations onto another person. When someone becomes impossible to stop thinking about, the intensity of that connection is often linked not only to who that individual truly is, but also to what they represent within the unconscious mind. The fascination can feel overwhelming because the person becomes a living symbol carrying parts of the self that have not yet been fully recognized. Projection begins in the unconscious. Every individual possesses qualities that remain undeveloped, ignored, or suppressed. Some people hide their creativity because they fear judgment. Others deny their emotional sensitivity because they believe it makes them vulnerable. Certain strengths, desires, and potentials remain buried beneath daily routines and social expectations. When another person appears displaying these qualities, the unconscious immediately takes notice. The attraction may feel sudden and powerful because the mind is responding to something it secretly longs to express. This explains why certain individuals affect us far more deeply than others. Two people may be equally kind, attractive, or intelligent, yet only one becomes unforgettable. The difference often lies in symbolism. That person reflects something hidden within the observer. The connection feels meaningful because it activates a neglected part of the psyche. The more powerful the projection, the more significant the relationship appears. Jung observed that projection can create both beauty and confusion. In the beginning, it often produces idealization. The person seems extraordinary, almost larger than life. Their flaws become difficult to see because the unconscious is focused on the qualities it has projected onto them. The individual is no longer viewed objectively. Instead, they become a screen upon which hopes, dreams, and unmet emotional needs are displayed. As time passes, reality gradually challenges these projections. The person reveals their imperfections, limitations, and ordinary human qualities. This can lead to disappointment, confusion, or emotional conflict. However, Jung saw this moment as an opportunity for growth. Instead of clinging to the projection, the individual can begin reclaiming those qualities and recognizing that they belong within themselves. The inability to stop thinking about someone often indicates that an important psychological lesson remains unfinished. The mind continues returning to the connection because it senses there is something valuable to discover. The person serves as a mirror reflecting hidden dimensions of the self. Every memory and emotional reaction points toward an inner truth waiting to be understood. Through this perspective, the focus shifts from trying to possess another person to understanding what they awaken within. The connection becomes less about external circumstances and more about self-discovery. The qualities admired in another may be dormant strengths seeking expression, unrealized potential seeking development, forgotten emotions seeking recognition, and deeper aspects of identity seeking integration into conscious awareness and personal growth. Another reason a powerful connection can remain distant is that emotional readiness and genuine feelings are not always the same thing. Many people assume that if love exists, a relationship will naturally move forward. Carl Jung's understanding of human psychology suggests otherwise. A person can feel a deep connection and still be psychologically unprepared to embrace it. The heart may move in one direction while the unconscious mind moves in another, creating an invisible tension that keeps two people apart. The unconscious mind is shaped by years of experiences, beliefs, fears, and emotional conditioning. Childhood experiences, past disappointments, broken trust, and unresolved emotional wounds leave lasting impressions. Even when someone consciously desires closeness, these hidden influences continue operating beneath awareness. They shape reactions, decisions, and behaviors in ways that often seem irrational. A person may genuinely care for someone, yet become distant when the connection starts to deepen. To outside observers, the behavior appears contradictory. Internally, however, the psyche is responding to fears that have not yet been fully understood. Jung believed that meaningful relationships often activate old emotional patterns. A deep connection can bring forgotten insecurities to the surface. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of vulnerability, and fear of losing independence may suddenly emerge. These fears are rarely logical. They are emotional memories carried within the unconscious. When intimacy begins to grow, these hidden fears can become stronger than conscious intentions. The individual may withdraw, hesitate, or create emotional distance despite their genuine feelings. This internal conflict creates a situation where attraction and avoidance exist simultaneously. One part of the person longs for closeness, while another part seeks protection from potential pain. The closer the relationship becomes, the stronger this conflict may feel. As a result, the individual remains caught between desire and resistance. They think about the connection, imagine possibilities, and feel emotionally affected by it, yet struggle to take consistent action. Emotional readiness involves more than wanting a relationship. It requires the ability to handle vulnerability, uncertainty, and emotional exposure. It demands a willingness to face uncomfortable truths about oneself. Many people spend years developing external success while neglecting inner development. When a significant connection appears, they discover that emotional maturity cannot be replaced by attraction alone. The relationship begins asking questions they are not yet prepared to answer. This is why distance should not always be interpreted as a lack of care. Sometimes it reflects an unfinished stage of psychological development. The person is still learning how to trust, communicate, and confront their own fears. The connection remains meaningful because it continues challenging them to grow. What appears from the outside as hesitation may actually be a struggle occurring deep within the psyche, where old wounds, protective defenses, unresolved emotions, conflicting desires, unconscious fears, and the longing for genuine intimacy compete for influence over thoughts, choices, reactions, perceptions, behaviors, expectations, and emotional responses. Carl Jung believed that some of the most significant relationships in life are connected to what he called the shadow. The shadow represents the hidden side of the personality, the traits, emotions, desires, fears, and memories that a person rejects or keeps outside conscious awareness. Most people prefer to see themselves in a positive light. They identify with qualities they admire and suppress characteristics they find uncomfortable. However, the shadow never disappears. It remains active beneath the surface, influencing thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in ways that often go unnoticed. When a person enters your life and creates a deep emotional impact, they frequently become connected to the shadow. This happens because meaningful relationships act as mirrors. They reflect not only the qualities we openly acknowledge, but also the aspects of ourselves we have avoided confronting. A strong connection may bring unexpected emotional reactions. Feelings of jealousy, insecurity, fear, possessiveness, longing, or vulnerability can suddenly emerge with surprising intensity. These emotions often seem to be caused entirely by the other person, but Jung suggested that they are revealing something hidden within the self. The reason such connections become unforgettable is that they activate parts of the psyche that have remained dormant. Someone who appears confident may awaken insecurities that were previously hidden. Someone emotionally available may expose fears of intimacy. Someone who offers genuine affection may reveal deep fears of rejection. These reactions are not random. They indicate that the relationship is touching areas of psychological significance. The shadow often resists exposure. Human beings naturally protect their self-image and avoid painful self-examination. When a relationship begins revealing uncomfortable truths, the unconscious may respond defensively. A person might withdraw emotionally, create distance, blame circumstances, or focus on external obstacles. These behaviors help avoid confronting deeper issues. Yet the emotional impact remains because the shadow has already been activated. Jung viewed this process as essential for growth. The purpose of encountering the shadow is not punishment, but awareness. By recognizing hidden fears and unresolved emotions, individuals gain an opportunity to become more whole. Every strong emotional reaction contains valuable information about the inner world. Instead of seeing discomfort as a problem to eliminate, it can be understood as a signal pointing toward areas that require attention and integration. This is why some people continue occupying our thoughts long after separation. They are connected to an unfinished psychological process. The relationship exposed aspects of the shadow that have not yet been fully understood. The mind repeatedly returns to the connection because it senses there is still something important to learn. The person becomes associated with a journey of self-discovery, where hidden emotions seek recognition, denied qualities seek acceptance, unconscious fears seek understanding, and fragmented parts of the personality seek integration into a more complete and authentic sense of self. Carl Jung believed that human development is not simply about growing older or accumulating experiences. True growth involves a psychological process called individuation, the journey toward becoming a complete and authentic person. This process plays a profound role in relationships, especially those that leave a lasting emotional mark. Sometimes the reason two people remain distant despite strong feelings is that one or both individuals are still moving through important stages of inner development. The connection may be real, but the psychological foundation required to sustain it may not yet be fully formed. Individuation begins when a person starts looking beyond the social mask they present to the world. Jung called this mask the persona. Most people spend years identifying with roles, expectations, and images that help them gain acceptance. They become attached to being strong, successful, independent, agreeable, or emotionally guarded. While these identities serve a purpose, they often hide deeper aspects of the personality. A meaningful relationship has the power to challenge these carefully constructed identities. When someone enters your life and touches you deeply, they may force you to confront questions you have avoided for years. Why do certain fears appear when intimacy develops? Why does vulnerability feel threatening? Why do old emotional wounds become active in the presence of someone who genuinely matters? These questions are not obstacles to growth, they are part of growth itself. They signal that the psyche is inviting greater self-awareness. Many people believe relationships fail because of external circumstances alone. Jung would argue that inner conditions are often more influential. If a person has not developed emotional self-understanding, unresolved conflicts continue affecting their choices. They may seek closeness while fearing it at the same time. They may desire commitment, yet resist the changes commitment requires. The result is emotional inconsistency, confusion, and distance. The process of individuation requires confronting hidden aspects of the self. It demands honesty about fears, insecurities, desires, and contradictions. This can be uncomfortable because it challenges familiar ways of thinking and behaving. Yet, without this inner work, genuine intimacy becomes difficult. A relationship can only become as deep as the self-awareness of the people involved. This is why some connections remain unfinished for long periods. The individuals involved may still be learning lessons necessary for their development. Life continues presenting experiences that encourage growth, maturity, and understanding. The connection remains significant because it acts as a catalyst for that process. Thoughts return to the person because they are associated with a turning point in psychological evolution. From Jung's perspective, the deepest purpose of certain relationships is not immediate fulfillment, but transformation. The connection awakens a path toward greater wholeness. It encourages the integration of previously hidden dimensions of the personality, fostering self-knowledge, emotional maturity, inner balance, authenticity, resilience, wisdom, deeper consciousness, and a more complete understanding of one's true nature and potential. Carl Jung believed that timing plays a far greater role in human relationships than most people realize. People often assume that if two individuals care about each other, circumstances will naturally align and bring them together. Yet life repeatedly shows that strong feelings alone are not always enough. A connection can be genuine, meaningful, and emotionally powerful while still remaining distant because the psychological timing is not yet right. This idea may seem frustrating, but it reflects a deeper understanding of human development. Every individual moves through life according to a unique psychological journey. Growth does not occur at the same pace for everyone. One person may be learning self-confidence, while another is struggling to overcome fear of vulnerability. One may be discovering personal purpose, while another is still healing from past disappointments. Even when two people share a strong bond, they may be standing at very different stages of inner development. This difference can create distance despite mutual affection. Jung observed that meaningful relationships often appear during periods of transformation. A significant person may enter your life precisely when deeper psychological changes are beginning to occur. Their presence can awaken emotions, questions, and possibilities that previously remained dormant. However, awakening is not the same as readiness. The connection may reveal what is possible, yet the individuals involved may still need time to develop the qualities necessary to sustain that possibility. This creates a paradox. The stronger the connection feels, the more it may expose areas that require growth. A person may realize they have difficulty trusting others. Another may discover unresolved fears of abandonment. Someone who values independence may struggle with emotional dependence, while another may fear losing their identity within a relationship. These challenges are not signs that the connection lacks significance. In many cases, they are signs that the connection is psychologically important. The unconscious mind often understands this process before the conscious mind does. This is why a person can remain emotionally significant long after physical distance has been established. The psyche recognizes that the relationship is connected to unfinished development. Thoughts continue returning because the connection represents a chapter of personal growth that has not yet reached completion. Jung's concept of individuation helps explain this further. Human beings are constantly moving toward greater self-awareness and wholeness. Certain relationships become catalysts for that movement. They push individuals to confront weaknesses, examine beliefs, and develop emotional maturity. Sometimes separation becomes part of this process. Distance provides experiences and lessons that would not be possible within immediate closeness. What appears to be delay may actually be preparation. Life often uses time as a tool for psychological development. During periods of separation, individuals gain wisdom through challenges, learn from mistakes, develop resilience, and acquire deeper understanding of themselves. The connection remains influential because it continues shaping inner growth, encouraging emotional evolution, expanding self-awareness, strengthening character, refining values, deepening perspective, increasing maturity, and guiding the individual toward a more integrated and authentic version of themselves. Carl Jung was deeply interested in the phenomenon of meaningful coincidences, which he called synchronicity. Unlike ordinary coincidence, synchronicity refers to events that appear connected through meaning rather than direct cause and effect. In relationships, this idea often becomes especially powerful. Many people report thinking about someone intensely only to unexpectedly encounter them, receive a message from them, hear their name repeatedly, or notice patterns that seem too significant to dismiss. Jung did not view these experiences as simple accidents. Instead, he believed they reflected a deeper connection between the inner world of the psyche and external events. When a person becomes psychologically significant, the unconscious mind begins organizing attention around symbols associated with them. This does not necessarily mean supernatural forces are at work. Rather, the psyche becomes highly sensitive to anything connected with that individual. Thoughts, emotions, memories, and expectations become linked to a network of symbolic meaning. As a result, seemingly ordinary events can feel charged with unusual importance. Jung believed that human beings often underestimate the influence of the unconscious. Beneath conscious awareness exists a vast psychological landscape filled with memories, instincts, archetypes, and emotional patterns. This deeper layer constantly influences perception. When someone occupies a central place within the psyche, the unconscious may draw attention toward experiences that reinforce the significance of that connection. The individual begins noticing patterns that might otherwise have been ignored. This is one reason why certain people seem impossible to forget. They become woven into the symbolic structure of the inner world. Their image represents more than their physical presence. They may symbolize transformation, hope, growth, healing, or an unrealized aspect of the self. Every coincidence involving them feels meaningful because it resonates with deeper psychological themes already active within the unconscious. Jung's concept of archetypes helps explain this further. Archetypes are universal patterns existing within the collective unconscious. Certain relationships activate these patterns in profound ways. A person may unconsciously embody the image of a guide, a companion, a catalyst for change, or a reflection of hidden potential. Because archetypal experiences carry immense emotional energy, they often leave lasting impressions. The connection feels larger than ordinary attraction because it touches universal dimensions of human psychology. The repeated appearance of symbols, memories, dreams, and meaningful coincidences can create the impression that the relationship is unfinished. From a Jungian perspective, this feeling often points toward unresolved psychological development rather than external destiny alone. The unconscious continues drawing attention to the connection because it contains lessons still waiting to be understood. Each reminder becomes an invitation to explore deeper layers of meaning, uncover hidden truths, examine inner motivations, recognize unconscious patterns, integrate neglected aspects of the self, and continue the lifelong journey toward greater psychological wholeness and self-realization.